Okay. Now, where did it show us if we had 3 people? There we go. We're back. One watching. Okay.
Welcome back.
Yeah, I'm just going to make a post letting people know that we're there, and then we'll get started, guys. Sorry. So, almost 15 minutes late. Turns out when you buy the thing, it records on its own. You don't have to ask it to record. So I was looking for something that wasn't there. Okay. How do we see people here? Next time this should go so much smoother. Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming. Danny here on my left, your right, probably not sure how it shows up on your side. My name is Kiera. We are here with Taylor trying to talk about some barking and all of the ins and outs of that, including the training, why there's some other options of how we can work with that. Yeah, and so that's kind of what's on the docket for today. Let us know if you have any questions. Hi, Bree. So, so first of all, when we're talking about lots of different types of barking, you have your alert barking, your excitement barking, demand barking, boredom barking, stress anxiety, fear and defensiveness, pain, discomfort, and social and play barking. And now a lot of these are things that we can actually, kind of create ourselves just by reinforcing things inadvertently when we're not expecting to. Danny and I both have some good stories for you a little bit later. And then of course, like, we want to talk about the barking because it's not always the barking we're actually trying to deal with. It's the underlying reasons of why the dog is barking is what we're actually trying to work with. The key takeaway there is barking's not bad. It's communication. It's kind of letting us know what's going on with. So instead of we're stopping the barking, we're understanding the underlying cause. We're addressing it. The one thing that I do want to kind of make a side note on is that pain and discomfort cannot be addressed through training. You must see a veterinarian for that. Training, we can help with the cooperative care to help it be less stressful for sure. But in terms of pain, we can't train pain out of a dog. So the other thing that we want to talk about in terms of barking is the hierarchy of needs. You know about hierarchy of needs, hey, like the biological needs, emotional needs, just kind of making sure all of their needs are met and fulfilled. Do you want to talk about it at all?
Well, biological, a lot like human beings, we need food, we need water, we need safety, shelter, and then of course making sure that we're in good health. So for us, it'd be going to the doctor. For our pets, that's usually the veterinarian. Even things like going to the groomer can be seen as so basically it's self-care.
Self-care.
And then their emotional needs.
Yeah, so emotional needs, you have like security, love, trust, consistency. So, that kind of goes back on like the fear barking where, we're not just stop the barking. We're like, oh, we want to make the dog feel better. So we're going to actually approach the thing they're scared of in a way that they're first comfortable with and grow from there. No different than if you're trying to make me okay with spiders, not going to happen if it's right next to me. We might have to work up to that. Dogs obviously like the trust and the security, the love, the consistency, making sure you have that bond. When I see dogs that follow owners without leashes, is usually because there's such a good bond there that they spend so much time together that it's their best buddies, and so don't downplay the amount of time that you spend with your dog. And it's not always just about the amount of time, but the quality. Like, what are you doing in that time as well? We have social needs.
So bonding with your dog, or your dog bonding with your pardon. So social needs, so of course bonding with the people in the home, socialization of even just being okay with walking outside and walking past a stranger. That can be a skill that needs to be addressed because not all dogs are okay with that. Being able to meet other dogs, being in their inner circle, and again, dogs they don't know. So those can be very different things for each dog because they're very unit based. they
it's like individual, just like us,
yeah,
right?
pretty
Like
much.
sometimes we get along with people, sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
So on that spectrum, right? And then like, so the social thing doesn't necessarily have to be like all dogs,
No.
but having certain friends that they at least get to have that social interaction with.
Because some dogs, just like people, are introverts and would much prefer to just be with those few select individuals.
Right. Training needs, train with free of pain, obviously free of intimidation. Training, we're approaching that underlying issue again. So that's one of the hierarchy of needs is training. That's something we definitely don't want to miss out on, because then we tend to become a little bit more reactive instead of proactive when we miss that step. And I'm actually just going to go right on into the next one myself here for cognitive needs. Freedom of choice is one that gets missed a lot. Even if it's the illusion of choice, can sometimes help the dog to make those right choices just with the right guidance. So setting the environment up where they have a choice, but at least have choices that are actually going to be helpful for them. Novelty, new things. Going on different routes on your walks, having different toys, problem solving. We're working on an enrichment challenge to offer you guys later, which we're really excited about. So lots of problem solving and novelty in there to keep dogs excited. The more they get to do that kind of stuff and fulfill other needs, they might not feel the need to bark if it's like, boredom barking, for example. So just fulfilling other needs first can actually start helping some of the other barking issues prior to training even. So try and look at it as a holistic approach, kind of approaching all aspects to help the dog, not just one. Okay, so this is where we go into the story about Merlot and I. Merlot, I have always taught him to advocate for himself, to ask for treats or food, water, whatever. He just has to come and stare at me, and then I'm ask him what he wants, and he shows me. And I don't know if I was just going through a lot or if I was like doing schoolwork or what, but he would like come to try to get my attention and I ignore him. And I'd be like, oh, I'm busy right now. And then so he'd get like little woofs, and then it would become like a little under the breath woof with a stomp on the ground. And then it became a full on bark. And when he would full on bark to me, I'd be like, okay, I'll get up now. And then I'd get up and go and help him. Well, what that did was teach him that what works is barking. So what he started doing, because he started coming into the room, looking at me, and just doing a full loud bark right into my face. And I'm like, dude. So we made new rules. Whenever he walked into the room, and as soon as he made eye contact with me, I'd get up and be like, what do you need? And then he started learning that, okay, just looking at mom is what gets me the reinforcement. So it took us a little bit to undo the damage. But it's how I trained my dog to demand bark, and then to untrain him to demand bark really quickly. And sometimes you have to wait out the barking and reinforce the quiet when you're able. There's a few different ways, right? I think you had one. Will your story about Blade fit in with the demand barking?
Which one?
I don't know. You told me earlier you had one about something you had taught him with demand barking, I thought.
No.
Or that he had just did it. No?
No.
Conversation, communication, so fun, isn't it? So let's kind of
the please bark.
The please. Okay. Is that what it was?
Yeah. So he will come up and he gives like it's kind of a little roo or whatever. It's just a small woof compared to like his big barks that he would normally do when he alerts.
Oh, okay. So like Merlot, when he looks at me to ask, his is more like a polite bark.
Yeah.
Got it. Oh, okay.
Because I asked him to use his manners.
So Blade has manners. Awesome. Next, we want to talk about that inadvertent reinforcement. We've kind of had a lot of issues with barking and owners kind of not understanding how that gets created all the time. So eye contact is one of them. Even our reaction, just when kids and they kind of get into trouble, and we always get after them. Sometimes bad attention is even good attention, just because you're paying attention to me. And I like that. Even if we view it as negative, it matters how the dog views it at the end of the day. So another forcing I find is actually yelling at the dog, so that the dog's barking at the window. Hey, quiet, stop it. I always joke that people should just bark with them.
Yeah.
We've been joking about making like a little video about that too. I had a lady do that once when I was on a dog walk. She actually barked at her dog while the dog was barking, and it stopped. I think that everybody should cue quiet as a bark. So with that inadvertent reinforcement, sometimes we don't always see everything. in terms of being owners and in terms of being trainers, because we're not always there to see the behavior as it's happening. And so one of the things that we've started doing is asking people to record their dog when the behavior is happening by having like a camera running most of the time, so that you're not having to set it up, because we want natural behaviors. And through recording, we can actually see where the dog is finding the reinforcement. For example, I was going to have some videos ready, but we fell behind on everything. So we have Bree, our lovely staff member, who's very helpful with us, has Bucky, who likes to tell her about all of the fun stuff happening on the street. And we used our videoing to find out what he was finding reinforcing. And it actually turned out it was the reaction. So the same thing of the kind of, hey, stop that. He loved it. He's like wanted all day long.
Even just calling his name.
Yep, anything. So we, through that video, learned, because we had been trying to help Bree with this for a while, but we as trainers were missing that one piece. And as soon as we got that one piece, and changed everything, Bree just sent me an awesome video the other day of Bucky watching like a cat come by the bed, and some stuff going. We still have some barking things to work on, of course, but he's really coming along nicely, and just from those videos.
Yeah, sometimes allowing yourself to allow the intensity to come down first before even changing the behavior itself helps, because then it takes away the reinforcement for the animal, and then they're going to start looking for what is going to be more reinforcing.
Yeah, so what was I just talking about this the other day? A dog that was barking then started doing little woofs at the window instead of big barks. And I'm like, great, you can still reinforce those little woofs, because then once you reinforce the little woofs, the big woofs stop, and then in between the little woofs you get quiet. Now we stop reinforcing for little woofs and we start reinforcing for that quiet. So you can train in baby steps too. Little increments.
Usually helps too, and then it makes you feel less overwhelming, because then you're not looking for that instant stop result.
Yeah, so you're like your baby wins, baby steps. Yeah. So to be successful, if you will.
Which is reinforcing for us as human beings.
And we need that.
I know it is for me.
Yeah, we need reinforcement just as much. We're animals, learning theory is the same, right? So really what we're getting down to here is be proactive versus reactive. If you know what's going on and you know how to, do some training when you're not in those scenarios, and as well as how to react when they do happen, super helpful. So then another thing we really want to speak on is helping dogs be quiet in a boarding kennel environment. We do have some friends that run kennels as well, so we want to touch on a few different things. So when you're working with dogs in a kennel and you have a lot of other dogs barking, a lot of the times we tend to rely on social learning and mirror neurons. And so what that means is our mirror neurons are, when you're ever sitting and talking to someone, all of a sudden you realize that you're both got your same arm up like this, sitting together. It's those mirror neurons they're talking that does that.
It's the way we connect socially as human beings.
Yeah.
And
so
animals do the same.
Yeah. And so we use that to our advantage. Quiet and good, we reinforce that dog. And then the other dogs see that dog getting reinforced. Oh, maybe I should try being quiet. Same thing with opening the door. Like if you always open the door when the dog is excited, or guys, especially on camera. Wait till the dog's calm before you let them out. And when they're first learning to be calm, you don't have to wait for them to be laying with their head down or anything. Sometimes, again, it's those incremental steps. Can you sit for me to open the door for, half a second or something? And then you work on building their abilities as you go. Right. The other thing is, so really what it breaks down to is that you're treating the quiet or you're releasing them from the kennel for quiet. So just decide on what the criteria is you're looking for. Are you looking for a sit? Are you looking for just no barking? Are you looking for eye contact? Once you decide what it is you're looking for, reinforce that behavior. We then are moving on to management and training strategies in general. So why we say management and training is that they're usually used together. If your dog is allowed to practice a behavior, then the more likely they are to continue to do it. So one of the ways that we might think about this is if a dog can see out the window.
Yeah.
We have lanes or those, I don't know what you call them. They're like those sticky window stickers.
Used those cardboard panels to block windows as well.
Like from the Jeep, right? It doesn't have to be expensive. It can be something you can take down, so it doesn't have to be always covering the view of the window. And then when you take away the sight, now you're only working with the hearing. And then so that can make it a little bit easier working with one of the senses versus two. Then as they get good with hearing, now we give a little bit of sight back and we start working on both of those together.
Usually only as you're working on that behavior. So as again, to stop them from being able to practice the opposite when you're not present.
Right. So when you have your, like those trifolds down, like the cardboard down, that's when you're working on it. When you're not working
you're
on
being
it.
active as the trainer, the owner, pet guardian.
Yeah.
However you want to word it.
So essentially I would put it as any time a dog has a chance to like practice negative behaviors, full awake adult supervision.
Yeah.
Always be there to supervise your dog so that they don't have the opportunity to continue to practice those negative behaviors. It really is about that consistency. So if you're having a bad day or not feeling it, then maybe you need a little bit more management that day and a little less training. On a good day, do a little bit more training, a little less management. Desensitization and gradual exposure, that does kind of play a part when we talk about covering the windows as well. You can use desensitization in dog walks.
Yep.
Where, if your dog's barking when you're on a walk, then you just set up training scenarios where you might use like a football field. Some dogs need a lot of space to start, and then you close it up as we go. You're going to want to use counter conditioning. So we're changing how the dog is feeling through sometimes food, through sometimes play.
Yep.
Species specific behaviors like the sniffaris are using sniffing.
Yeah. Given the choice to even run away and create their own space. So that's called flight training, I believe.
Or escape or emergent escape training or flight training. Yeah, one of those, which is actually great because so many dogs that we work with that are fearful will actually approach something that they're fearful of versus going away from it. And so teaching them like, hey, walking away is an option too, can be really helpful.
You don't need to drown in the moment.
Yeah. And a lot of times with dogs that we walk, when they're barking at something, we talk to them, hey, and then it's come with us. And they know that if they come with us, they're either going to play with us or we're going to throw a treat for them in the grass. So they're usually more than willing to come along. So counter conditioning is changing emotions, pairing scary things with something positive, but it actually can be not even a scary things. Essentially, if I'm really, really excited about it and I want to get them more calm, we're still counter conditioning because we're changing the emotional response. So using treats to change how I feel about something scary, or using kind of just calm behavior, sitting, and then reinforcing those behaviors while another dog is kind of over yonder.
It could even be for like barking at the door, waiting for calm behavior until your dog is calm before your guests greet your dog.
Yep. And then if your dog has a really hard time with the door, does your dog bark when the door opens with nobody? Then you might want to start with nobody on the other side of the door. So it's always different depending on the dog's reaction. Always ask yourself, how can I make this easier? And the one example I like to use all the time is a dog that I worked with, a Velcro dog, just loved being with the people. We were working on stay, and to get this dog to stay, I literally could not lift my whole foot. It was the heel. I lifted the heel, and that was a stake. As soon as my whole foot lifted, the dog moved. And so it was lifting the heel, and then lifting the heel and almost the toes, and then lifting the toes. And so it's really, really baby steps sometimes. So really, how can you make it easier and then build on that? In psychology, I believe we call it scaffolding with children, where you kind of help them learn the behavior, and then they do it on their own, and then you help them learn the next behavior, then they do it on their own.
Yeah.
Okay. So, a really good example of this desensitization is the vacuum. How many dogs have issues around vacuums? Slowly moving the vacuum closer over time, or even using a recording of a vacuum with the lower volume, because some dogs might bark at a vacuum. So they're barking, I'm going to record my vacuum when the dog's not around, put it at a low volume, possibly even farther away from my dog, and then start desensitizing to the noise first before the addition of the vacuum itself. And we might even desensitize the vacuum separately.
Yeah.
And then low noise with vacuum and do them both together. So we can make things easier by less motion in our bodies, by quieting the noises, by creating distance, by using better treats sometimes.
Oh, yes. That's a big one. A lot of times is figure out what's actually reinforcing to your dog. So something rewarding, you're going to take it, you're going to be grateful for it, but you might not necessarily work more for that reward. But if something's reinforcing, it's going to motivate you to want to do that thing more. It's going to make that behavior more solid because it's more fun to essentially do it.
Yeah. How I look at this actually is one of the dogs that we've worked with quite a bit, I couldn't figure out why we couldn't get him to stop jumping, because we did everything we knew how to do, and he just kept jumping. And I would talk to the owners, and we couldn't figure it out. And one day I saw his young human sister playing a game with him where she'd peer over the top of him, and he would jump up at her face, and she'd turn around. And this was this really fun game that they had created.
It's the best game of peekaboo ever.
Yeah, and I think to this day he's still kind of jumpy because he found it so much fun. So whenever you can create fun in training, it's fun, it's reinforcing. So why wouldn't your dog want to kind of partake in that? And it's good for us too.
Yes.
To have fun.
Always turn training into a game when you can.
Yeah. So, the end goal is really to help the dog feel safe and confident instead of scared or reactive. And reactive can mean aggressive and or excited. It doesn't have to mean a negative thing. So when you go into training, because now we kind of talked about some management and how we can control some of the barking. With training, you can teach a quiet command so that when they do bark, you then can tell them quiet. So that a lot of the times happens, I think, through capturing.
Yeah. I find it the easiest, at least for myself. Because to set up the scenario sometimes to get them barking can be difficult depending on your dog.
Yep. Another one is engage, disengage game that we play a lot of actually on our dog walks. And so that's a 2-stage game where we're wanting, so I guess the best way that I can put this is when we're going on a walk with a dog and say an owner that doesn't really know, and they run into another dog and there's reaction. The first thing they usually do is just escape and avoid. And then so it's like, look at me, let's go this way, let's not look at that thing. And which is one of the escape things that we can do. But when we're working on a dog with a reactivity like that, we actually want to teach them, yes, looking at that thing is good without a reaction. So dog trigger at a good distance within their ability, and then we mark that looking.
Yeah, it's kind of like a magic safety bubble. So you're going to want to find that you're close enough that your dog's going to engage with the trigger, but far enough back that you're still kind of in that learning zone, that your dog's not in like a super reactionary state.
Yeah, so if your dog can't listen to you, that means you're probably too close to the trigger. And if your dog doesn't even care about the trigger, you're probably too far away. So then kind of use that as your, can the dog still listen and notice the trigger? You're probably in a decent spot there. And we're not always staying in the super comfortable spot. We do want to push them, but not to the point of reaction. So if you're noticing body language issues, definitely give them a little bit more space. I'm sure that'll be a live that we'll have to do in the future on body language, because we don't have time today. Another great one is actually the look at that game. And word that I can't think of right now. A lot of people think this game is actually about looking at the thing, which it's not. It's actually about looking at you and telling you and reporting to you about that thing. So, I might hold up my wallet here and say, hey, look at this thing. Dog looks, I click, dogs looks at me, gets a treat. I hide purse. Purse comes back out. They look at, I click, good, I hide purse. And then eventually we leave it out. Every time they just look at it and glance, I'm going to click for that. And you look at me. Then eventually I put it away from me. We do the same thing. Now, what we're teaching is that you are not going to interact with that thing. And so the more that we work on it with neutral objects first, because we want to be able to capture those behaviors. If they're reactive, you can't capture it. So neutral first. Then you work up to dogs. Now, when we're on a walk, I notice that dog, but we're playing the look at that game because they know, because I'm going to say, where's that dog? Right? Where's that dog? Or where's that thing? And they're like, oh, we're playing that game. There's the dog, Mom. And then I report back. Yeah. So I'm a reporter now instead of a reactor. So that's a great game that you can use. Be consistent. If your dog is barking, don't let them bark. Go and deal with it. And if you can't,
turn around, take a different direction.
If you can't manage, if in your house, right? Or like anywhere, if you can't be there to train, then manage it so that they can't practice the behavior. That's going to help you so much. Social play barking is one that I think is not necessarily a problem unless you're trying to talk in your backyard while your dogs are barking and stuff, or if a play partner is not liking the barking. And that
can be triggering.
Well, yes, most definitely. If someone's playing with me and yelling in my face while we're playing, I don't think I'd be happy. So how you work on something like that is you facilitate breaks. We start noticing body language. When are the dogs getting excited? Hey guys, let's take a break. When they take that break, we're looking for specific body language cues like yawning, Shake Off was the other one I was
Shake
thinking
Off's
of
a
there.
big one.
So usually too, if you have one dog that's fairly calm and one dog that's just a little bit more excitable, then we're really looking for that behavior from the excitable dog, not necessarily from the calmer dog. If they do, that's great. So then, and then I guess be choosy on play partners, so as your dog is younger and learning and playing, choose partners that are going to teach them good behaviors. If you have a dog that's playing really rough and you don't want that kind of play, or a dog that barks, then again, remember, social learning, mirror neurons, they can pick that up real easy. So be choosy, pick good play partners. Another thing we want to talk about, because of course we want to help dogs, right, is different calming aids. You used Adaptil, did you, with him ever? No, it was Blade or Bucky. Bucky used Adaptil. That was Bree. Got to keep all of my people straight,
They're both B names,
right? But yeah, so Adaptil is a dog appeasing pheromone. It's a pheromone that mothers' dogs naturally release to comfort their puppies. So that's something that you can use if there's a stressful situation, just to help them. Again, it's not a magic pill. It's a way to help them through
for a biological response.
Yeah, like to get into the brain with the training. It just helps us help them, so to speak. They calm down enough. Thunder shirt. Again, it's like swaddling a baby. Getting that comfort.
Deep compression, because that even helps our own sympathetic nervous system. That's why hugs are so nice.
And the weighted blankets. So, and again, though, think of a thunder shirt and training. You want Adaptil and training. Even as humans, when we start on any medication or types of stuff where we're working on things, it should be paired with therapy.
My dog's not settling.
Oh, he's been good. You can use some nice calming music, calming chews and treats that sometimes have, I think, like CBD oil or CBD in it, and some of the other ones that I'm not privy to the names off the top of my head. Things that smell like family members. Usually I would say, as long as they're not chewers, just because if they are starting to swallow any fabric, that can really not be good for the digestion system. Any other calming aids that I didn't think about that you can think about? I think I got most.
There's the head socks as well for grooming and that. Yeah.
You have the happy hoodies, or there's these new head socks that some people are. It's just almost like a soft helmet for a dog. I think they kind of had it up here, and the dog had big bunny ears, and it was just a dog that was sensitive to noises, and it helped kind of, no different than loops for humans.
Yep.
Just to make those noises a little bit quieter. Some dogs would be great with it. Some dogs might not love things on their head. So again, finding solutions that work for your dog.
Training the dog in front of you.
Yeah. And even if your dog doesn't love it, it doesn't mean that you can't help them love it through desensitization and counter conditioning, working slowly at their pace. Kind of back to kennel environments, I really wanted to touch base on dogs that aren't suited for kennel environments, because as much as you might work on dogs, they're barking and stuff, it's not a good fit for them. The stress level's too high. So if they're excessively barking all the time and not stopping, refusing food, being destructive, if it's not a natural behavior, I guess, if they're being destructive and they are all the time, then we probably need to talk about a little more exercise and other things too. The other thing I'd look for is just really big eyes, those whale eyes, panting. They look panicked.
The excessive drooling. Can be
drooling, shedding, any of that stuff. So knowing body language can really matter. If a dog's trying to hide in the corner, then that really, to me, just means it's not that you can't have anyone look after them. It might just be the louder environment of a dog kennel that doesn't suit every dog. So you might be looking for stress poops, which are usually really soft. Drooling, shedding, that panic look we were talking about.
Unable to settle,
yeah. So a lot of pacing. Again, knowing the dog, though, right? Because I have an old guy, and pacing is, I think, one of his favorite pastimes. I also am a pacer, so maybe he learned it from me. You okay, buddy? Sorry, we're gonna check on his toy. Oh, he found his toy. Okay.
Hi.
That's good.
So, some alternatives to think about: in-home boarding, or staying with a family member, having someone watch your dog in their home, are all some different that you can think about if the kennel situation kind of working for you. So we did want to leave some time for a Q&A. So we actually did move fairly quickly. Probably the fast talking helped us there. I wasn't sure how long we'd need for the live. So what I want to do really quickly is I'll just show off some of this stuff real here. We have, doesn't actually, oh, because it's green. So I might, it doesn't show it because it's green. Weird, but these are our new, I would have grabbed a different one had I thought about that. Little bows, and you can find them on taylor.ca. We have little bandanas as well. Those ones are just your regular ones, and they are, a lot of them are actually double-sided, so you can have black or white, or say if you want to put them on where they have a little collar, so to speak, you can do that. We have these ones. This one's double-sided because the fabric was just, it goes from darker to lighter, and these ones kind of tie up to have a nice bow on the back like that.
Or you can put it in the front and it kind of looks like an ascot.
Yeah, I actually named the mascot bandanas online.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, because of your idea. Yeah, so that was Danny. She named our ascot bandanas, and then little green again. Dang, I didn't think about that when I did this. So this part that's not showing is green. And these are the part also down here that aren't showing, I think, is like leaves and stuff, and there's little
it looks translucent.
It's pretty cool though. It's like x-ray vision. That's neat. Oh man. And then I do have Rough Rider roadies online too. I didn't bring one down here, or actually I do, but it's back there. They are SEO or SEA approved. I think it surpasses human standards for seatbelts for dogs. So I'm only selling those until I run out of stock. So if you wanted to take a peek at those, definitely go and take. The other thing that I wanted to mention is we will be interviewing Quinn's Kennels on March 22nd at 4 p.m. I believe. I'll let you know if that changes at all, but I believe we decided 4 p.m. They're a new kennel that's opened up close to Red Deer. I've worked with this lady personally, and so I feel really comfortable being able to refer you guys to her. So I want to give you an opportunity to meet her. So later in March, make sure you tune in. And last but not least was if anybody had any questions or concerns about barking that we didn't answer, that we should have answered. We tried to collect some questions along the way. So hopefully those ones were answered in our talking. And of course, if you need some help with one-on-one training with barking, we have Danny, myself, and we added Stephanie to our team about a little over a month ago.
Yep.
Fitting in real well. So yeah, any questions or things that you guys would like answered? Just gonna see if we got any other things. We couldn't see all of the stuff on YouTube here, so we were gonna check if any more stuff's on there.
Hello, I think we're live.
I just popped up. It was like playing for me on there. Yeah, so I guess if nobody has any questions or anything like that, we'll bring it to a close. Hopefully for our first live, it wasn't too bad.
If you do have questions later because you're the restream, please put them in the comments and we'd be happy to get them.
Yeah, or come onto our Facebook page because that reminded me. Thank you.
Yeah.
On the Facebook page for the next week or so, it's all going to be on barking. So some of the stuff that we talked about will be on there with some other extra stuff as well. We just really wanted to kind of have it in written format and little bits and pieces for people that might not have time to watch the video too. So stay tuned in. You can ask questions on our posts, ask questions on the YouTube video once it's posted, and then that will be great. We're also thinking of doing a discount on some barking sessions this month. So we'll give you 20% off if you want to book barking sessions for the month of May. March. We're a little tired today. We're trying to be prepared. But thank you all for being here so much. And if you're watching the restream, thank you for being here as well. We look forward to doing more of these and hopefully getting better at them. Take care, everybody.